Okay, in this video I'm going over UFC Fight Night, Diego Lopez versus Jean Silva. It's a pretty good card overall. A lot of Mexicans on the card, which is to be expected because it's in UFC Noche, so it's in Mexico. So, we're going to start with Santiago Luna versus Quang Lee. I'm just going to be doing the main card, by the way. Santiago Luna, from what I've seen of him, which isn't a lot, is a very well-rounded fighter with good grappling, with crisp, clean, powerful striking, and a lot of finishing potential. Santiago Luna is 6-0 and is has all finishes against people that are really shit. He's coming off a win against someone that has a record of 4-7, so he's not beating good competition whatsoever. But he's coming up. He's clean. Does clean work in his fights, even if his opponents are shit. He does clean work. And what I think is going to be the main thing going into this matchup is Santiago Luna's grappling is really good. Quang Lee really needs to dominate in the grappling to win. That's his main tool. He's coming off a win against Gaston Bolaños, where he grappled a lot. I think Santiago Luna is going to be able to stuff takedowns if Quang Lee goes for him. And if they're on the feet, I really do trust Santiago Luna, from what I've seen of him, to kind of piece up Quang Lee, because I know Quang doesn't have the best striking on earth. So I'm going to go Santiago Luna to win by either a decision or a knockout in the second or in the third round. So yeah, next. Kelvin Gastelum versus Dustin Stoltzfus. So I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum. This is a win for Kelvin Gastelum, I think. Kelvin Gastelum used to be good. He gave a good fight to Izzy, and he's had a bunch of good performances and such. He's had a really weird time of late in terms of his weight cuts, and he's super fat, and he's been losing a lot. But he still keeps it close with pretty good people. D-Rod has proven to be not completely dog shit, and Kelvin kept it pretty close to him. Kelvin gave Joe Pyfer problems. And that was recently. That was his last fight. He did lose, and he's losing. But he's keeping it in there against guys that are like mid. And Dustin Solstice is the definition of mid. Dustin is not very good at all. And I don't think he's going to have the power to put away Kelvin. And I think in a fight like this, you kind of have to put away Kelvin, or you have to have a really strong grappling game, which Dustin Solstice doesn't. He's not going to be strong enough to take Kelvin down a bunch or have the cardio to do so. And Kelvin gets gritty and starts brawling when he needs to and when the fight goes on. So I'm going to go to Kelvin Gastelum by decision because he can't finish a fly either, I would say, at this point in his career. But Stoltzfus just isn't good enough at this point. And yeah, I just don't think he's going to be good enough. He's older. I know Kelvin is too. But Kelvin's fought better comp. He's doing good against decently hyped up competition like Joe Pyfer. I thought Joe was going to smoke him, just demolish him. And Kelvin gave him trouble in the third. Dustin Stoltzfus is not Joe Pyfer. I don't even think he's D-Rod level. He's going to lose. I think Kelvin's going to win. I think they made this matchup to get Kelvin a win in UFC Noche. I think this is kind of scripted for him. So I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum to win. Next, Rafa Garcia versus Jared Gordon. So, I'm going with Jared Gordon, obviously. Jared Gordon's actually really fucking good. He beat Paddy Pimblett. He almost beat... he was doing good against Bobby Green before he got headbutted. He beats people. He's very fucking good. He's had a lot of weird decisions where it hasn't gone his way, but he's been very close, or he got blatantly robbed in a couple performances. But overall, he's super solid, well-rounded, good boxing, durable, and good grappling and great cardio. He's all around a really good fucking fighter and just had really bad luck as of late. Rafa Garcia has made close decisions with really shitty old-ass fighters like Vince Piquel and Clay Guida. That's not a good look. Rafa Garcia is a tough guy, but he has no power. He has some cardio. He just is a cardio tough merchant like a lot of the Mexican fighters are, I would say. Rafa Garcia doesn't have power. He's not going to finish Jared Gordon. He doesn't have the technical ability. He's not going to have an edge in any department on Jared Gordon. I would go Jared Gordon 10 times out of 10 is going to beat Rafa Garcia. I'm that confident. But at the same time, Jared Gordon's career has been just unlucky as fuck. I don't know what deal he made or who he wronged in the spiritual world or whatever. But Jared Gordon has just been having a shit time of it. So if Rafa Garcia does find a way to beat him, it'd be really sad for Jared Gordon because he arguably should be ranked. He beat Paddy Pimblett. He's number 7 now. Paddy did have a broken foot, but it's still impressive. Jared Gordon's good. He's solid as fuck. And he's going to beat Rafa Garcia. Probably by knockout. I know Rafa's tough and he has a good chin, but I think Jared's going to knock him out in the second or third. Next, Rob Font versus David Martinez. So it was supposed to be Rob Font versus Chi Wiwi's, Raul Roses Jr., and that was compelling at least, but I still would have went with Rob Font. David Martinez on short notice, like a week's notice, fighting nobody but Simon Oliveira in the UFC, is not going to beat the gatekeeper of all gatekeepers in Rob Font. Rob Font is the guy you have to beat to become an elite bantamweight. He's the gatekeeper king for a reason. He's super hard to beat. He's super solid, and you will get fraud checked by him if you're not elite. We've seen it time and time again. His last fight was close and could have arguably have been a robbery. But David Martinez isn't going to have the grappling offense that kind of worked against Rob Font in that fight. To beat Rob Font, you have to be really fucking explosive, like a Marlon Vera or a Davis and Figueiredo, to catch him in moments and rock him and wobble him. David Martinez on short notice, I don't think has the skill set to rock Rob Font. Rob Font is still just as good as he's been, but he's just not quite to that level where he can challenge for a title or into the top 5. He's right on the cusp, and that's why he's the gatekeeper. David Martinez on a week's notice is not that level. He has only fought one fighter in the UFC. He's not going to be able to beat Rob Font in his second fight. It's too little of time, too little competition. It's not going to happen. I'm going to go with Rob Font, old reliable, to win by decision against David Martinez. Martinez is explosive. He's very powerful. He's very aggressive. But as time goes on, if you don't finish Rob Font, and Rob Font does have a good chin for being wobbled all the time, he's going to pick you apart. He's going to beat you. It's just going to happen, especially on a week's notice. The cardio is going to show on a week's notice against Rob. And that's just a fact. So, Rob Font to win by decision. Next, the main event. Diego Lopez versus Jean Silva. This was extremely hard to pick in my brain. I've been juggling the matchup in my head back and forth. I pick one guy for a week, pick next guy for a week. I've kind of landed on one, and it's not entirely due to the past recent performances of the Fighting Nerds, but it has a little bit to do with that. I'm going to go with Diego Lopez to win. I see Jean Silva as a guy who completely styles on mid to low level competition, completely destroys them. When it gets aggressive, when it gets real, when you have a guy in there that can knock you the fuck out and actually wants to win and is just as much of a knockout artist as you, just not as flashy, it's going to be different. You're not going to be able to showboat. You're not going to be as comfortable. Diego Lopez is going to put a pressure on him. He's going to be aggressive. He's probably not going to fear as much go crashing in like he always does. He's always a guy who crashes in hard and counters with power. Jean Silva might be able to land good shots and stagger him, and maybe if Jean Silva's gonna win this fight, it has to be by knockout. I see Diego Lopez winning a decision. I see him out grappling Jean Silva in moments. I see him being way too physical and having a bigger presence in there. And when Jean Silva comes in, I can see Diego fucking countering. The way for Jean Silva to win is a super slick counter on the outside when Diego comes in, and being comfortable. And after all of his friends have all lost, they all got fraud checked. You can't get fraud checked in the top 2, I understand. Kyle Barrow is not fraud checked. And neither is Carlos Prates, really, because he just got a spinning elbow. Really only Ruffy's gotten fraud checked. But at the same time, Jean Silva's a pretty emotional guy. He's pretty sensitive, I would say. He's an odd fellow. I don't think this jump up in competition is going to be good for him. Going to be good for his mental at all. He might be autistic enough to get it done and just not give a fuck at all. But there's a lot of pressure on him. And he's jumping up a lot. He's number 10. His last fight was against Bryce Mitchell, who does not have the striking presence of Diego Lopez. Not even close. You have to be on edge against Diego Lopez. Diego lost his last fight against Volk. But Volk's dynamic as fuck and good on the outside and elusive with his head movement. Jean Silva is not. He gets cracked and cracks back, and he's good and he's solid and he has decent head movement and defense and everything. But he's not Volk. He's not that elusive. And Diego Lopez, I really do trust in his chin to not get absolutely demolished by Jean Silva. Because Jean Silva's fought an opponent that he couldn't knock out. He had to submit Bryce Mitchell, had to. He probably would have knocked him out if the fight went on. But he didn't. He submitted him. He didn't knock out Drew Dober. He cut him. He rocked him a bunch. Very impressive. There's chins that he can't crack. Diego Lopez has a fucking amazing chin. I don't think he's going to crack it. I don't think Diego Lopez is probably going to knock out Jean Silva either, but I see Diego Lopez being a fucking physical beast in there and kind of putting it on Jean Silva, and Jean Silva's going to get weirded out. He's not going to be comfortable. He's not going to be flowy like he always is. He's going to get pressured. He's going to get clinched up against the cage. It's hard to pick against Jean Silva just because of how good and fucking and just sick he looks all the time and how he's aura farming on everybody. But Diego Lopez did the same shit on his come up and knocking everybody out in a vicious fashions. It's just hard. It's really hard to pick this matchup, but I'm going to have to go with Diego Lopez to win by decision. And because I don't see either of them chinning one another. I don't see it happening. So I think Diego's probably going to win by decision. If it's going to be a knockout, I think it's going to be later. And if it does go late, I trust Diego Lopez to get a finish more than Jean Silva. So, Diego Lopez to win. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I'll see you soon.